Welcome, everyone, to tonight's asset protection webinar. For those of you on the East Coast, it's very late. We very much appreciate Jill and Roberta being with us. They're on Eastern time, and they're still awake this time of year, or this time of night. So we appreciate that. For those of you that are just joining us for the first time, this is a long. We've been teaching this webinar series for over 10 years now. And we've got an incredible lineup of webinars that have happened in 2021 and will happen. We had Mike Koval taught some really good strategies. Just here's what's happening in the market. Scott Estel, the former senior trial attorney from the IRS, was teaching here's how to do tax planning under the new administration. We had Clint Coons talking about some really amazing strategies, especially when you live in a state with high filing fees, like California, like Massachusetts, like others. And here's some ways to avoid those and get better anonymity and asset protection. And then we've got an incredible lineup. So you're always welcome to join us. The webinars are always free and they're always recorded, and we keep them on our website for about 30 days. And then after that, we tuck them somewhere else. But you're always welcome to call us. We've got, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds of hours of recorded webinars with some amazing strategists and attorneys and instructors that have taught for us over the years. And anyway, so pay attention. If you're not getting these webinars, if you're brand new to us, make sure not every webinar will apply to you, but when they do, we invite you to join us. And then we're less than a week away from our next upcoming summit. We've got the 3-day Asset Protection Summit. That's the longest running asset protection class anywhere in the nation. And this one, we've got an incredible lineup. We've got Bill Danko. Most of you know him as a co-author of The Millionaire Next Door, but he recently came out with a new book called Richer Than a Millionaire. And Bill will be here as a guest speaker. We've also got, for the very first time, Robert Sheeman, an attorney, an incredible investor, real estate investor, and an incredible trainer. He's had over 17 books. Some of them have gone New York Times best-selling. Just an incredible trainer, and he'll be with us for the very first time. He's actually joined us as a student on a couple occasions, and now he's coming in as an instructor. So if you haven't signed up for that class, it's an incredible lineup. You can get the agenda at protectwealth.com. You can also sign up for it. Again, it begins next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And they are full on all day, well, not all day classes. They'll run from about 9 to 4 Mountain Time. You can adjust the time wherever you are. And this class is almost full. We've got just a very few slots still available. But an alternative date, this would be April 22nd, 23rd, 24th, the same dates, but just the first one is a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday class. The one in April is a Thursday, Friday, Saturday event. So whichever works best for you. Registration is free. You're welcome to join us. In years past, we used to charge $3,000 to attend the class, but we were only getting 30 to 80 students at a time. And we've just opened this up because the information is absolutely critical for business owners, for real estate investors, for stock market investors, for entrepreneurs, anyone that's doing something that's a little outside the box, has a potential for lawsuits. We invite you to attend this class. So that's coming up. Again, they would register at protectwealth.com. If you're interested in next week's event, you probably ought to do that today to make sure that you can still get in the class. And then before we talk anything, we are not allowed to talk, to teach specific, we can't give legal advice. We can't give you specific tax or investment advice. We can teach general principles. We can watch trends. We can see what's happening in the market, but how these principles apply to you and your situation is really a matter of discussion between you and a professional. One of the reasons we bring so many people to the summit is we try to give you an opportunity to sit down at least afterwards and let them go over your situation and see how these principles apply. So with that, let's let me welcome Jill. We haven't seen Jill. Jill's been a long-standing friend of our company for years and years. Well, okay, not that, but she's not that old. But we've done cruises, we've done seminars, we've had so much fun with students over the years. I don't know anybody in this industry I respect more than her. An amazing real estate investor that just couldn't get things done with traditional IRA custodians, so she started her own company. And I've got all the respect in the world because she's a doer. She's not somebody that takes information and sets it aside on the shelf. She's somebody that implements what she learns. And excited to have her. And then over the last few years, we've also got to know Roberta. What an incredible knowledge base of how IRAs work and how they apply for students and helping students. So on this topic of how to take control of your real estate investing using self-directed IRAs or retirement accounts, I we turned to Jill and Roberta, and we're so delighted to have you. Thank you for your time and especially being here this late. So I'm going to turn time over. Do I turn time over to Roberta? Are you the one? Okay.
I'll kick us off. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And we'll start from the beginning here. It always takes a second. Here we go. Well, thank you so much for the warm introduction. And I, of course, am absolutely thrilled to be here this evening and to be with all of you. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your evening to spend it with Jill and the Protect Wealth team. We are located in Northeast Ohio, so we have had a lot of snow. Some of us are in different states this evening, and it's always great to come together and know that the weather or whatever may be going on around us doesn't keep us from solid opportunities in education. So we love the virtual opportunity and greatly appreciate it. I also am thrilled that our CEO and founder that Don has spoken of, the history does go way back, and Jill is definitely a doer, and she's also a tremendous leader who has enabled us to really build a solid team over the years. And it's been great for me to be a part of that, especially in the past couple of years, and do the education. And I love when she joins us because tonight we can make it a little bit more interesting, more lively. We definitely want your questions, and please do put those in the Q&A area. The chat is not live tonight, but you can put those questions there. I'm going to cover, of course, my role is this education, right? And to just give you that foundation. Sometimes you may hear this over and over and over, especially if you have been on the Protect Wealth events. But if you have not, it's very possible that you could be new to this conversation tonight. So I'm going to cover those basics pretty quickly. We're going to take about 20 to 30 minutes to go through an interactive presentation. So I am going to be going back and forth, asking some questions of Jill, and to really have our case studies come alive with her personal experience and that experience of our clients. And of course, if we have a question that we certainly need Don's input on, we're going to just grab him as well and make this interactive and relevant for you. So that is our goal tonight. Again, thank you. I know that we have some clients on the line. We thank you for that as well. And in the Q&A, when I'm not talking, I will definitely take a look. If you wouldn't mind saying that you're a client or just say what state that you're in, that kind of helps us understand who we're talking to or with, I should say, this evening. Tonight, we are talking about self-directed IRAs, and really it is a tax discussion, and in a lot of ways, it's an income versus wealth, right? You can create income, W-2, 1099, you can make investments and you can create income, but are you really creating wealth? And so with self-directed IRAs, you can definitely increase that wealth potentially by driving those investments that you know, understand, and are comfortable with. iPlan Group, we are a passive self-directed IRA administrator with the custodial responsibility for our clients that are using their retirement dollars, basically IRAs, 401ks, and others, to invest in alternative investments. And we help our clients stay within those lines because we are regulated by the Department of Labor and the IRS. And our role is really to review and get those investments in what I want to say, a compliance review as a client. Of course, we do that at no charge for our clients, just to make sure that they are staying within those lines. Again, we're based in Northeast Ohio, so Cleveland, Westlake, and we are nationwide. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about us and what makes us different if you're not familiar with us. Of course, Don has done some housekeeping for us already. It is very important that you keep in mind tonight, we're here for educational purposes only. We do not give you any tax, legal, or investment advice. We don't endorse any particular investment or recommend any investment for its performance. The IRS doesn't do that either. So they're not looking at investments for performance. They just simply tell you what you can do in an IRA, more so what you cannot do. And it's very few things. I'll cover that. So it is very important that you do the due diligence in every investment that you make. Make sure that you're comfortable with it and you understand the risk involved. What we're going to cover, the basics, and of course, these strategies. Specifically tonight, we're going to touch on the Roth IRA. And I do know a lot of changes in our world, especially in 2020, moving into 2021. And we know that tax rates, of course, are changing, and it happens quite often. So we're going to talk about the power of Roth and even some specialty accounts. And of course, again, taking your questions along the way. I already mentioned we are passive, so we are that self-directed IRA administrator, but one of our passions at iPlan Group is education, and that's why we participate in things like this evening. Our passion is really to bring you industry experts in different areas of investments, including real estate and other alternatives, as well as people like Protect Wealth, Don and his team. They are industry experts, and so we look to connect you with those experts in our education as well at iplangroup.com. We do have an events page there. You can take a look anytime and join us. We cover all different types of education because, again, we want to empower our clients as investors to be able to do that due diligence and be comfortable in the investments that they are making, using self-directed IRAs. So IRA education, industry education, connecting you with those experts is something that we really enjoy doing. Our company is different. You'll see Jill on the screen and you're going to hear quite a bit from her tonight. We are a company built by investors for investors. And our story is pretty simple. Jill Banner, very accomplished real estate investor. She has done just about everything. I think anything I've named, she's probably invested in it, and anything from land to mobile home parks, tax liens, deeds, you name it, she's done it. And as a client of a very large self-directed IRA company, she simply became frustrated. Jill, do you want to speak to that a little bit?
Sure. I guess this happened about 14 years ago. I was trying to do a deal. It was a bank-owned deal, and I couldn't get the paperwork done in time. And every time I had to delay, it cost me $375. So after 2 bouts of 7 days delayed and some extra fees for that, I was frustrated. And so I knew that this could be done a little better, more for the investor friendly for speed. Some of my best deals I found and purchased the same day. So that's what we created when we created iPlan. We're very fast, we're very friendly, we're boutique, we're very small. A lot of our clients know each of our staff members, and our staff know a lot of the clients personally. So we get things done.
Absolutely. And this is the biggest difference that I also hear from our clients and potential people that are looking at iPlan Group And they talk about this frustration because a lot of times you are with a larger firm that has a great base in the industry and they have great experience, and that's wonderful. But even if you're part of like a Wells Fargo or Charles Schwab, I don't know necessarily their clients' services, but any large corporation, you make a call, you get passed to another department, and sometimes you get a little bit, backed up, if you will. You can't get things done because you're always talking with a different person. So being a boutique firm, being a little bit smaller, we definitely provide that more professional, not necessarily professional, but more personal client experience and really get things done. So it's a big difference. You wouldn't know it unless you're a client and experience it. But I will tell you, our clients enjoy it. And that same day processing, there's no extra fees for that. And some people say, same day processing, do you really mean that? And it's true, because with self-directed IRA investing, it is a little more clunky. It's not an ETF. We collect a lot of paperwork behind the investment, have to review a lot of that paperwork, and we do look at it the same day. So it is a big difference, and it can make a difference, especially in an auction situation or something that's very competitive. You want to make sure that you get those funds to the table. So let's clarify the self-directed term just in this conversation. Self-directed, it's an industry term, and it's basically marketing. You're going to hear it out there in different arenas, but in this conversation, it is just an industry term, and all that it means is that you hold your IRA or a portion of that account with a company like iPlan Group that allows you to decide what you're going to invest in. And it could be real estate. We have a lot of our clients that are doing real estate and other alternatives. In terms of the contribution limits, distribution rules, and all the benefits of that IRA, they're exactly the same as the account that you would hold right now. So self-directed just means that you've got those funds with a company like iPlan Group that says you get to self-direct or invest in what you are comfortable with. Self-directed IRA investing is increasing, and I am always amazed, almost not daily, but I would say at least 2 to 3 times a week, I will talk to someone. I talked to someone this morning that said, well, I'm doing a potential investment. He was referred over to us because he was thinking about doing kind of a high risk, high return, I think more of a high return in his mind. And the iPlan Group was introduced to him, and he said, what are you talking about? Like, I can actually use my IRA to invest in this private company. And of course, this person said, yes, you can. You need to go talk to Roberta. And he said, yeah, I had no idea. So people don't know that you can diversify with a self-directed IRA. Real estate, we're going to talk about different categories, by the way. Cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, that's becoming a hot topic. There's a lot of things that you can do in your IRA. And most of all, we find that people just simply want to take control and they want to invest in what they really know and understand. And I think Jill can speak to that. She was comfortable with real estate. I was always attracted to it. And she said, hey, people that are doing well, they're in real estate. And she figured it out. And when she knew that she could do it with an IRA, it was kind of a no-brainer. It gives you a way to also put capital resources together. We're going to talk a little bit about that as well. And of course, have these assets grow tax advantaged, tax deferred, possibly tax free. So it is definitely increasing. We're hearing more and more questions in the private sector. And this is really what our client base looks like. We've got about 40% of our clients that are doing real estate. And what we mean there is the physical property, the rental, rehab, wholesale, land contracts, whatever it might be. You can do that in your IRA. We also have a large portion of our clients that are doing note investing. So some people are flipping the paper, becoming the bank, or flipping the paper like others are flipping houses or properties. Lots of our clients are also doing private lending. So your IRA can give a loan, and yes, it can take a loan, but a promissory note, it can be backed by or secured by a mortgage or not. You can do an unsecured loan, believe it or not. And then we do have a lot of clients who are doing the entity investing. So limited partnerships, LLC, and as I mentioned, startup companies as well. Now, let's speak a little bit more to our direct audience for those of you that have participated in Protect Wealth events. over the years. Gosh, I think we're over 10 years with Protect Wealth Academy, which is amazing. And you're seeing a lot of great education, and you're also hearing from a lot of industry experts that are doing some amazing things. And you have opportunities to participate with them as well. So I wanted to be sure that we were very specific about what you could do in your IRA. So maybe you're hearing about the opportunity of doing a turnkey property investment or interest in land. I know the residential assisted living opportunity is becoming explosive. So IRA funds, can they be involved in these investments? Absolutely. But the key is you need to know, how can your IRA funds be involved, especially if you're the business owner. So we want to be sure that you reach out to us, and we do IRA strategy sessions, talk about your individual situation, because it is very individual, and give you the specifics of how your IRA dollars can actually participate. Also, I've been talking a lot today, so I'll take some breaks here. Stock market. So we talk a lot about the ability to invest outside of the stock market because of its volatility over the years, over time, of course, very cyclical, but people like to have things outside of the stock market as well. But we also talk to a lot of the Protect Wealth students that are doing stocks, right? So you're able to invest in the stock market through iPlan Group as well. So we want to be sure that you know that you can do that. A lot of our clients have uninvested cash in their IRA that they bring over, and they're able to set up an account with TD Ameritrade as well. And those accounts basically talk to one another, is the short story, and you're able to direct the funds, your IRA funds, over to that platform and buy those stocks, funds, mutual funds as you choose, and have those profits return back to the IRA tax deferred or tax free. So good to keep that in mind. Also, I know at Protect Wealth, we hear a lot about entity structures, and sometimes my head kind of explodes over those presentations. And those of you that have been a part of them, you know what I'm talking about. So we're going to certainly engage Jill and Don a little bit on some of these questions. But syndications, LLCs, corporations, there's opportunities to invest in these entities as well. Your IRA funds can absolutely be involved. So let's touch on this question now, Jill, because this is one that I get a lot. And people will call in and say, I'm very excited. I've set up my LLC. I'm going to go into real estate, and now I know about an IRA. I'm really excited. So can I get my IRA funds into my LLC, or do I need a new one? What does this look like? So let's talk a little bit about this.
That is a great question. So the big thing here is to keep your personal income or your personal LLC separate from your IRA. Think of your IRA as a completely separate entity. So if you are to start an LLC in your IRA, it does need to be newly formed. There's a couple little nuances that you'll need to add in the operating agreement as well, but you can absolutely put an LLC inside of your IRA. It gives you a lot of freedom. You control the checkbook, so that when you have if you have a property in your IRA and you have a plumbing bill, or you want to pay the water, the sewer, the gas, you simply write the check. If you have a piece of property inside of your IRA that's not in an LLC, you would direct us to pay the water, the sewer, the gas. So we have people that like the LLC because they're on top of things and writing the checks, and then there's other folks that say, I don't even want to deal with it. You guys keep me safe and compliant. You pay all the bills and administer the asset. So we have both. It's a personal preference for the client.
So the IRA, the single member can be the IRA, correct, and the LLC.
Yes.
Okay, great. I mentioned cryptocurrency earlier, and this is another common question, and I know it's becoming, again, in the news, a hot topic. I mean, when you're seeing growth of, gosh, 800%, 1,000% or more, people are like, okay, how do my IRA funds become involved? So definitely in that case, it would be a single member LLC. Your IRA can own it, and that would be the path to investing in cryptocurrency with iPlan Group. I'm sure there's other providers that may offer different opportunities, but that's the way it would work with us. So Don, I see that thoughtful look on your face. And of course, I would love your input on this topic. I know we're going to be doing an event in March, and we're going to be talking really deep dive into these very topics on asset protection, your level of risk. When do you really need to have that LLC in place? So I'd love to hear.
Well, see, I have a little bit of a different take on it because I'm interested in protecting you from the assets as well as protecting your investments from you. Let's say you've got $1 million IRA and it's all invested in stocks and bonds and mutual funds and things that are otherwise safe, meaning they're not going to cause a lawsuit. But now I take some of that money out of the stock market and I purchase a piece of real estate and it's in my IRA. So what have I done? I've really introduced risk into an otherwise safe bubble because real estate now has the potential. Yes, hopefully you have a good management company, hopefully you carry good insurance, but worst case scenario, could that piece of property and the owner of that be sued? Yes. And so what we've done is we've now brought risk into that whole inside of that bubble. So sometimes we'll use a single member LLC to own a property, and it's a single member, meaning the owner is the IRA. And what I'm using that for is to isolate this property or this small group of properties from everything else inside of the IRA, so that if something happens, I've contained the risk and it doesn't blow up the whole $1 million IRA. So we'll use single member LLCs like that, and we like, as much as possible, the custodian to run this. We've seen too many problems with checkbook IRAs where somebody doesn't really understand the rules and they cause themselves some problems. So whether it's in an IRA or an LLC, sometimes though, what we find that instead of having lots of LLCs inside of your IRA, sometimes it might be easier just to set up another IRA. You guys, you do this all day long, and I don't know, could you set up 2 IRAs for me or 3, one for safe assets and one for real estate? Yeah, of course you do that all the time.
Absolutely. Yes, I have several IRAs. I have a couple Roth IRAs, one for risky investments, one for safer investments. It's a good strategy.
Yep.
Definitely. I do see a question already. I think good time to address it. If you own a property in your IRA, can you manage the property with no compensation? Or do you have to hire a management company? And we're going to talk a little bit about prohibited persons, prohibited transactions. But Jill, I know this is, again, a common question, and I think you speak really well to that.
Sure. You don't have to have a management company. It makes things a lot more arm's length and separate, of course. The problem when you manage, and it depends on what you term as management. If you're just collecting checks and depositing them, that's one thing. If you're heading over there with your wrench and your hammer to fix the toilet or to reshingle the roof, that is definitely prohibited. So light management, yes, is absolutely okay. It's always a good idea to have a management company, though.
Yeah. So one of the lines I use too is you can always do the desk work, but it's not the sweat work. So you're prohibited to that sweat equity piece when you have property or your IRA involved in that investment. So LLC, we covered that a little bit, but another great question is, do you need a separate LLC to buy real estate in separate states? That's a good question as well.
Yeah, I'm going to turn this one over to Don because he can speak to this better. It depends on the level of risk and your risk tolerance for the asset protection.
Generally, if we were using generally every LLC, we want to have filed in that particular state so that we have standing in the state. If we can enforce contracts, we can evict tenants, we can defend ourselves in court. So if I had a property in Indiana, I would want it to be in a single member LLC filed in Indiana and then owned by my IRA. So now that's the general rule. But of course, there's an exception to every rule. And one of the exceptions is IRAs tend to be kind of recognized in all states. And so the need for this to be specific, to put my Texas properties in Texas LLCs owned by my IRA and my Arkansas properties in Arkansas LLCs, there's a lot of there's a lot of flexibility when it comes to LLC or to IRAs that wouldn't be. The general rule is wherever the property is, put the LLC in that, and who the owner is it could be a Wyoming, it could be a Delaware, it could be a holding company, it could be your IRA. That's the general rule, but we often see that broken when it comes to IRAs. How's that for obtuse?
Yeah. And I think just to comment on that briefly, or add to, I should say, is do you need? It's not always a need, right? So there's strategy, there's different reasons for doing different strategies. And I'm going to tell you, if you have not heard even 2 hours or 8 hours or a couple days of Protect Wealth, these questions are addressed over and over. And I really do think that that level of risk and your experience and the end game of that investment, when we talk about self-directed IRAs, sometimes it's great just to kind of keep it simple and say, you know what, may not be for every investment, but there may be an investment that is absolutely perfect for. And it makes sense to get these tax deferred buckets moving and the tax-free buckets moving, because as sophisticated investors, as you advance and do more creative things, you'll see how the IRA can come into play. But again, not always perfect for everything. So great conversation. So when can I start investing with the self-directed IRA? This is super important because once again, you must have things decided upfront with a self-directed IRA. So before you start that business or before you find that property, when you start finding that great opportunity, you want to make sure that you have an account opened and funded before you make any offers, because the titling has to be right up front in the name of the IRA. And that's the key thing. So if you're out there making offers and you hear this concept and you're like, this is great, and because I'm going to show you some examples as to why you really want to consider doing this if you're not doing it already, you just write that offer, or you title that property and you already hold it, you can't back it into the IRA. So the titling is going to look like this, just to give you a visual. It's not going to be in your name. It's going to be in the name of the IRA. So I Plan Group Agent for Custodian, FBO, your account name, and talking about asset protection. Yes, you can use your account number as in lieu of your name for that anonymity. So that is a great thing to know, and make sure that you tuck that away in your mind, because you definitely want to get it opened and funded. The other comment that I want to make here is that at iPlan Group, we do not have any minimums. So it's also important to know that we have no transaction fees. So when you establish your account, you can bring over, we're going to talk about funding, you can bring over a portion of an account, you can make a contribution, but at least you're in the place of readiness to start making those offers. And then you can do additional transfers, additional rollovers, contributions, or a combination of those options. There's actually 7 different accounts that you can self-direct. So when we talk about partnering, and Joel has done some great creative strategies with us, using different IRAs or co-titling in investments, you can use traditional Roth health savings account. We're not really going to talk about that one tonight, but that is a gem, because the contribution on a health savings account is tax deductible. And when you pay for a qualified medical expense, it is a tax-free withdrawal. And yes, you can invest in real estate and pay for those medical expenses with those profits for right now expenses and even long-term care. So that's a great one. The Coverdell Education Savings Account, we're going to dig into that one a little bit tonight for a reason, because we want to explore Roth and college, I should say Coverdell Education Savings Accounts as opportunities to get those young ones investing. And Jill has done an amazing job with that. So I look forward to hearing from her as we move forward. Small business plans, very important to know this as well. If you're looking to maximize contributions, yes, you can have a combination of all these different accounts, including a small business plan. If you qualify for the solo 401k or a simplified employee pension plan or the simple plan, you can potentially maximize contributions. Solo 401ks, of course, are for owner operated businesses and their spouses. Potentially, you can get up to $58,000 in contributions in that particular account, because you're the employer and the employee, and you get to make that match. So it's a very great account to consider. And also, it's more forgiving in some of these real estate investment strategies when it comes to taxation and flexibility of investing. So sometime we'll have to do just an hour, I think, on that topic. But I want you to know that. Funding the self-directed IRA, I touched on this a little bit. You can do one of these or all three, a combination. So contribution, you would be subject to that contribution limit of the individual IRA account. So 6,000 and 7,000 for the catch-up contribution, those of you that are age 50 and over, and that's for the Roth or traditional IRA. You can also transfer from an existing IRA, and that would be an in-kind transfer, traditional to traditional or Roth to Roth. That's a non-taxable event. And you can also do a rollover from a former employer-sponsored plan. So those of you that are retiring or those of you that experienced job changes last year, I know that's been a very popular conversation as well with our prospects and people that are reaching out to us and saying, yep, I not only have one 401k, but I also have, another one or two or three, or they're going to be retiring and now these funds are available. You can certainly roll those over, including pensions, TSPs, and other retirement plans. So great ways to fund your self-directed IRA. I do see questions popping up, so I have looked at some of those. I think Kendall's still with us as well, so I'll be sure to cover those as we move through. I mentioned earlier that really our conversations when we're educating is about taxes. We're talking about when do you want to pay them? Often I will hear people say never. I've actually had some people say, I like to pay my taxes. I feel good about it. And I'm like, well, that's awesome. And I understand that too. But when do you want to pay them? Do you want to pay them when you have a little bit of money? Or when you have a lot of money, when you grow this money over time? Self-directed IRAs have actually been around since 1974, and it was part of ERISA. So it was this act where they said, hey, the government provided a way for us to save for retirement. And the theory was when we're in retirement, we're going to be making a lot less money. So our taxation was not going to be as high. But as investors, we talk with people all the time that have hundreds of thousands of dollars in their IRAs, 401ks, millions of dollars for people that are really strategizing and continue to grow it. So if you're in a traditional IRA, what do you have? A required minimum distribution now at age 72 and a half. So whether tax rates stay exactly the same, you'll be paying a lot more money at that time at retirement if you've grown that account. So keep that in your mind right now. When do you want to pay those taxes? Because that is really the conversation. We're going to move into Roth, and I think we're doing pretty good on time so far. I will take a couple questions after we get through this Roth part. This is one of the stories that, of course, people are familiar with, PayPal. So I like to, it's kind of like an example in steroids, if you will. But I want you to know that Roth IRAs and the power of this account is not just for wealthy. It can happen at any time. Wouldn't you agree, Jill?
Absolutely. I definitely use the Roth IRA strategically for my higher growth potential. So I do some startups in my Roth IRA because if those are going to hit, they're going to hit big, and I am not going to want to pay taxes on that. So people have both traditional and Roth. We're seeing a trend recently with the new administration change. People are converting a lot of their traditional account to a Roth IRA because they feel that taxes are possibly on sale right now and only going to go up. So we're seeing a big trend in people doing Roth conversions right now.
Yeah, we're going to touch on that too. So this example, Peter Thiel, a lot of people knowing who he is, so founder and CEO of PayPal, and he actually purchased shares in PayPal from with his Roth IRA funds. And then when the company was sold to eBay, he actually profited in his Roth IRA and now holds about $31+ million in his Roth IRA. This is literally an ATM machine that he walks up to. It's what we call the tax-free bucket, right? There is no taxation on this growth. And some people think, well, this must be illegal, but it's not. It's available to all of us to do these types of investments and experience the power of zero. I always call it the easy math, zero, right? That's the easiest math you can do. Now, again, not necessarily for every investment, but private investors, we see this all the time, investing in private companies that have not entered that IPO stage or they're still outside of the stock market, but they're growing exponentially. that can be a great opportunity. So again, those connections with others that are investing are so important to make. The Roth IRA, who qualifies for it? So pretty much anyone that has income. So you do have to have 1099 W-2 income. Earned income is defined by the IRS. There's something also to know on a Roth IRA, and it's called seasoning. Those of you that have a Roth IRA, maybe you've started one with Vanguard or your financial advisor, whatever it might be, and you have Roth money. From the time that you open the Roth IRA and fund it, this seasoning, the clock starts ticking. So the 5-year seasoning has begun. What does that mean? So after 5 years, you're able to withdraw from that account, from your contribution, with zero penalty, no 10% penalty. But you do have to wait 5 years also on this growth to draw on that growth. So even if you open the account when you're, let's say, 58 years old and you've never had Roth before, it's got to season for 5 years before you can draw on that growth. Now, a lot of young people love this, and they say this to me, man, this is very exciting, but you know what? I really need to access my money. So worst case scenario, here it is. At age 59 and a half, that's when you're eligible to take that money out without penalty, provided that you've got that seasoning done. But if you take it out before 59 and a half, you got 10% penalty, but that distribution is not added to your net ordinary income. So you're not paying tax on it there. So again, just another calculation to look at. It still could be a great alternative for an investment. It's an after-tax contribution. So there's no deduction with the Roth IRA, tax-free withdrawal with those conditions met. At age 59 and a half, like I mentioned, after that, zero penalty. And the spousal contribution, this is also something important to keep in mind. If you are working, your spouse is working and you are not in the same household, both can contribute to the Roth IRA. That's a really good thing to know. So you can double that household contribution with this spousal contribution. So one of you are working, the other is not, you're both able to contribute. So very powerful. So you can get that 6,000 to 12,000 or your 7,000 to 14,000. Now, for those of you that make too much money, congratulations. I'm very happy for you, and kudos, it's great. But at the same time, you still can have a Roth IRA. You may think that you don't qualify, but there's always a way to get in. So there is something called the modified adjusted gross income limit. You can see those on the screen here for 2021. They went up just a little bit, a couple $1,000s, single. Those of you that are single and making under 140,000, you can establish and contribute to a Roth. And those of you that are married filing jointly, it's 208,000. But everybody can get into Roth. And Jill mentioned this conversion. We did see a lot of people doing this. They want to get into this tax-free bucket, and this is how they do it. Here's an example. Let's say you have a traditional IRA, you establish that account with us, and you fund it with $100,000. You can convert a portion or all of the account funds. But in this example, let's say you want to do $50,000 Roth conversion. The $50,000 is going to be added to your net ordinary income in the tax year that you do the conversion. So that in this example, let's say you make $200,000 in 2021, you do a Roth conversion of $50,000. Now you're making $250,000. That would be your net ordinary income tax basis. So it's pretty exciting to know that you can do that conversion. And it's very wise to check with your CPA and other advisors to make sure it's a good year for you to do the conversions. But if you've had a year where you've got some great deductions, maybe as a business owner, or you've had a lower income earning year, it could be a great year to do a Roth conversion. So everybody can get into Roth, and you can do it incrementally, or you can do it all in one conversion. So that's a pretty good news for everyone. All right, I'm going to check on some questions right after I go through 2 more slides, and we're going to hear a story from Jill. So we've touched on Roth. And now I want to talk about the Coverdell Education Savings Account and this ability to partner or co-title in an investment. Before I do that, what is a Coverdell Education Savings Account? Well, remember how I said the Roth IRA, you have to have earned income? But some of you have maybe your children that are involved in your real estate business, and there might be a way to have them enter into earned income and do a Roth. And some of you may not have that opportunity, or you have a young child, literally, believe it or not, the baby's born, the grandchild, the niece, the nephew. They're born and you can get them a social security number while they can have a covered out education savings account. It's a $2,000 annual contribution limit. It's a traditional category, like a traditional IRA. It's not a tax deduction, but you can contribute to this account annually until the child is 18 years of age. So grandma, grandpa, they can make the contribution to this account as well. And it's a tax-free withdrawal when you pay for a qualified educational expense. And that can be right now expenses, not just college. So vocational school, books, uniforms, that's all included. And the account lives for 30 years. Now, if the child doesn't use the account for some reason, doesn't go to college, that's fine. It can also be transferred to another child. And for those of you that may have a child with special needs, the account would live for the life of the child. So this account is powerful when it is investing in something that you're comfortable with, like real estate or land. So I'm going to have Jill jump in and tell us this story and how that worked for her and her family.
Sure. Thank you, Roberta. I wanted to also mention that the Coverdell Education Account, even though it's a college fund, I did use it for my youngest. In my district, they only offer half-day kindergarten, so I had to pay for full-day kindergarten, and I used her Coverdell Education Account to pay for full-day kindergarten. So it doesn't necessarily mean college; it can mean any kind of educational expense. So it's a great tool to use.
That's great.
This particular investment, we had an opportunity to purchase a mobile home park at an auction. I have 3 children and all of them had a small Coverdell education account. So I partnered with their Coverdell education accounts. So on the titling to the mobile home park, there were 4 owners. They had each undivided interest at a specific percentage rate. Just after we purchased the property, this was down in on the Ohio River, down in Jefferson County. So that's where the Marcellus Shale is, and we were able to lease the mineral rights just after we purchased it for around $115,000. So they got a nice little hit in their IRA. 5 years later, we did the exact same thing again with a little bit of an increase in the mineral rights. Now, I did sell that park and they sold the park as well. However, we held the financing. So we held the note for the new owner. And so they're collecting still to this day checks from the owner who's paying in. So the owner pays the mortgage and a portion of that mortgage goes to each of their accounts. So it was a great way to really jumpstart their accounts. Now they have a lot of other assets inside of their Coverdell education account. So even though it might be a small contribution limit, as a matter of fact, right now, this is February, you can make a Coverdell education contribution for 2020 and 2021. So now you could get $4,000 for each child into the Coverdell education accounts, and then partner it with your account and take down some deals. It's a great way to grow the education IRA.
That's great. I love that story. And thanks for the reminder too. Right now, educational expenses as well as down the road. But how powerful is that? And I know this is one of Don's favorite stories too, when your daughter came to the live event and was talking about what she had in her IRA. And I think she was like 9 at the time, right? And she was, I think,
Even younger, yeah.
even younger. Like, yeah, I've got real estate in my IRA. So it's exciting. And it is a mindset, right? It's a great example to lead your kids and challenge them a little bit, right? And give them kind of that real world experience in a different way. So it's very, very creative with IRAs. I will tell you a bunch of questions are coming in. So I think what I'd like to do is finish up. We're at 9:20. I'm going to just go through the rest of our slides just to hit on the high points. And then we're just going to dive into these questions and we'll stay as long as Don allows us to get through the questions. But I do want to touch on some more of the basics and also remind you as we go through the questions on our last slide, we'll have some contact information. Please do reach out to us. We'd be happy to schedule a time one-on-one to go through your individual scenarios and eligibility to invest or use different IRA accounts. So keep that in mind. Prohibited persons, prohibited transactions, real high level. There's some things that are prohibited to your IRA and you happen to be one of them. And what I mean by this is this. If you purchase a house in your IRA, no, you cannot live in it. You cannot work on it. So no sweat equity, no self-dealing is the short story on that. And anyone ascending or descending in your family tree, including their spouses, are also prohibited to the investment. So again, IRAs set up originally to do what? Save for retirement, not for a right now benefit. So no self-dealing, no sweat equity. Think about paperwork, not desk work, can't fix the toilet. So for that rental property that you may be considering to putting in your IRA, by the way, it's a great investment. You technically do not need an LLC to do a single property, especially. We do all of that processing for all the expenses. So when you pay those utilities and everything, iPlan Group is going to be doing that kind of heavy lifting for you. So that's a great thing to do, but you're not going to be working on that property. Okay. That's going to be the one that's truly your investment. So just instead of a stock bond mutual fund, you're going to step away, you're going to do that investment and have somebody work on that property for you. Very few things that you cannot invest in with a self-directed IRA. And some of them are on the screen here, but basically collectibles, life insurance, direct purchase of a life insurance, you cannot do that, or an S corporation, alcoholic beverages, so the wine collections, or the brewery in the basement. No, you can't do that with your IRA. So very few things that you cannot do. So it is pretty open. We have, Jill touched on it, mineral rights, so gas and oil. We've talked about different types of currency. You can do precious metals. We have a lot of clients that are looking for more stability, right? So just increasing that yield inside of the IRA, and those are great opportunities to do that. Happy to talk through that with you as well, one-on-one, if you're not sure how to do that with your IRA. So the tax advantage choices, real quickly, this is a strong visual. I use it a lot because I think it is important to just drive it home. This is an example of titling a property, not in your name, but in the traditional IRA. Purchase price in this example, $98,000. You bought it right. You didn't have to improve anything. You're just a super great investor, and you made $100,000 in 3 days and you sold it. That $100,000 profit goes back to the IRA along with that principal. It all returns back to the IRA. At age 59 and a half, when you're eligible to take that money out without penalty, who's involved? The IRS. You're going to be paying that net effective tax rate at the time of retirement. Do you know that number, by the way? There's a lot of people that will definitely want to talk to you about that, because knowing that number is important. Let's take this very same example, but it's titled in a Roth IRA. The $198,000 all goes back to the Roth IRA. The $100,000 profit that you just made in that 3 days, that smart investment, at 59 and a half, when you're eligible to take it out without penalty, who's gone? The IRS is gone. It is zero. The $100,000 growth, no capital gains, zero taxation. So this is the power of zero. And I love to mention the book. It's called The Power of Zero, written by David McKnight. If you do Google that, make sure you get the 2018 revised edition. He does a beautiful job talking about that liquidity, the bucket that we need to live on, the tax deferred and tax free. There's a lot of great strategies out there, even other than IRAs. But I will tell you, he does a great job talking about that Roth and why we want to get that tax-free bucket working for us, because all of a sudden those tax rates really do become less significant when we're building that bucket. Why do you use an IRA? We've touched on a ton of it. Asset protection, it is in an IRA in and of itself because it is a trust and it lives for 100 years. It is passed to your beneficiaries outside of probate. So that is another great advantage. Those private investments do have some protection. Again, each individual situation is different, and asset protection, level of risk, the design of your business, we leave that stuff up to protect wealth. But when it comes to the self-directed IRA, we know how it works, and we know what it can really be powerful in, what types of investments and how to go about that. Capital resources, super important. So even if maybe you're saying, well, I like this conversation, it sounds really powerful, but I'm just dealing with small dollar accounts right now. And, I'm getting into a business and I'm raising money. Well, this is great that you're here, because you need to share this information with your private investors as well, because they may not know that that loan they're looking to give you in your business, your startup, maybe your residential assisted living, they need to know that they can give you that money in the IRA, create that loan, get that interest return back to their IRA, and get you launched in your business. Very important. Tax deductions, we talked about that. And here's the contact information on the screen. And Don, I'm going to start reading some questions. I think all of us can see them as well, but I'll go ahead and start navigating because we did get some really good ones. I did want to answer one right off the top that I saw, solo 401k. Do we have those at iPlan Group? We absolutely do. So reach out to us about that. We can help you with those steps and getting that started. And then also, I think there was a question already about how to move an account from an existing custodian to iPlan Group. Thank you for that question. You absolutely can do that. That would be considered a transfer if you have assets in the account. We can talk about that one-on-one, what those assets are and what that process of retitling would be in your situation. So we look forward to connecting with you on that. Contact information, again, on the screen. There's a link there to go to set up a session. You can certainly call direct as well. And you'll see the phone number there in 2 places. And I'm happy to schedule those times with you and talk with you. Jill, I don't know if you have any comments while I'm going to start reading questions.
I have 2 comments. One, we talked about the titling of the asset in the IRA. I like to title mine iPlan Group FBO, my account number. This gives me a little bit of anonymity. This is a form of asset protection. Also, when you attend the summit, Dawn's going to teach you about land trusts. Those are a powerful tool as well. So we kind of intermingle, and he'll help you with the land trusts, and we can title it to make it anonymous as well. Also want to talk about the children and Roth IRAs. You can pay your children, and Don will go over that with Scott and with Patrick, I believe, on how to pay your children. And then the children have earned income, and they can not only have a Coverdell education account, they can have a Roth IRA as well. So that'll be covered in the summit, and that's very important. I started paying my children very early, and they now have Coverdell education accounts and Roth IRAs. It's a very powerful tool. I see one from Brian that says, can you wholesale a contract using your self-directed IRA? So I'll just jump in and take that one. You can absolutely do this. I love to watch this happen for clients. Sometimes people think, oh, I have a Roth IRA, I'm going to put $6,000 in. I can't really buy a big house and do a flip with $6,000. What can you do? Wholesaling is amazing. Let's say you put a property under contract for, say, $200, $500. I've seen contracts for $10. And let's say you flip that contract and now you've just made $10,000. You just turned $10 into $10,000 in your Roth IRA. It's a powerful tool that a lot of people are not using, and you will never pay taxes on that money. So it's a really amazing tool. I wish people used more of it. Absolutely, you can wholesale a contract using your self-directed IRA.
Yeah, that's a really powerful one for sure. So I think we see some other questions also. Can my IRA hold a mortgage on a rental property? Can my IRA hold a mortgage on a rental property?
That is such a great question. So I did own a mobile home park and I ran it, and there was a lot of tenants and toilets and trash and turnover and trailers. And it was a lot of brain damage for me. So now I personally hold a lot of the paper, or I'll loan, or I'll do private lending or hard money lending. I think this is the question. I'll also talk about taking on debt in the IRA. So I love to do that. I'm getting mailbox money. It takes me 5 minutes a month to receive the check and deposit it and record the entry. I love using my IRA as a lending. Now, what if there was another question too, so I'll include that in this answer. I have enough in my Roth IRA for down payment. Can the rest be financed? Absolutely, your IRA can take on debt. That does trigger another stipulation in the IRS code that's called unrelated debt financed income, or unrelated business income tax. So there is a small tax on the leveraged portion of the debt. So you want to talk to your tax advisor and understand what those penalties will be. In some cases, it's very little. In some cases, it could be significant. And then you might want to change the method of financing your investment in your IRA. But yes, the IRA can take on debt.
And if I can add to that, if the debt is paid off, let's say I've got a 10-year mortgage, and now I've paid off the debt, and I've held it debt free for over a year, those taxes go away.
Mm-hmm.
So we see a lot of notes held in IRAs. I like notes because notes don't carry the risk that a deed does. Again, I look at things from an asset protection side, and nobody's going to sue you because you own the deed. My house is with city mortgage or on whatever, but if something happens on my house, they're not going to sue the mortgage company. They're going to sue whoever holds the deed. Deeds are considered to be a risky asset. A note is considered to be a safe asset. We like safe assets when we're dealing with asset protection. So absolutely, you can hold notes in there.
That's great. Can I use my self-directed IRA to invest in a small business? And that question is a good one. You absolutely can. There's limitations to investing in your own business. So that would be a great question for us to walk through one-on-one and look at that structure. So if you're looking to invest in an LLC, that's a great example. So if you're an owner of the LLC and you own in excess of 49% of that, or you have control over the checkbook, or you're the managing partner, you're prohibited to that. That comes back to that question. So you definitely can invest in a small business. It's just limited to some stipulations on the prohibited persons. Solo 401ks can also be a great option. So again, one-on-one, if you qualify for a solo 401k, that does have a loan feature on it as well. So that's something that could be attractive. Can I change my inherited IRA to a self-directed IRA? Absolutely, yes. There has been some changes in the tax law. I'm sure everybody on this panel with me knows about that. So, but you absolutely can. Do you have any comments on that, Jill?
No, absolutely. You can open an inherited IRA. It will be separate from your personally titled traditional and your Roth. So let's say you had a Roth traditional and now you pull over an inherited, you'll have 3 accounts. So it's separate, but yes, you can self-direct it.
Yeah, great. Awesome story, by the way, was a comment on your story. So we've got some people in Louisville and Arizona. Hi, Tim, my friend in Arizona, retired Arizona. He's excited with getting his self-directed IRA working. So great to hear from him. So siblings are not considered prohibited transaction. That's correct. That's correct. So you own a property in your self-directed IRA, your sister can work on it and live in it. So sister, brother, great question. Cousins also, they're not prohibited. What type of account does rollover money go into? That would be the traditional IRA. So if you're interested in Roth and you wanted to use those funds, that would be a conversion conversation. I own a property, vacant land in a self-directed inherited IRA. How can I buy it for myself to build a home on it? I get this question a lot.
That's a great question. So what we would need to do is, because you cannot purchase it, it would be self-dealing. It's not arm's length enough. You would need to basically take a distribution. So you would get a fair market value of the vacant land. Maybe right now it's worth 60,000. You would take that as a distribution and then use cash to build the home. You can't use your inherited IRA that owns vacant land to build a home on it. Now, let's say that the inherited IRA vacant land is worth 60,000, and let's say you use more money in the inherited IRA to build the house, and now the house is worth 200,000. Well, now if you take the distribution, you're going to have ordinary income tax of 200,000. So there's a little bit of strategy involved on when you take the distribution, but you would definitely have to take a distribution personally.
Great. We have an iPlan client, and it has some questions, and I think I'm going to have to reach out because there's a lot going on there. Does your solo 401k plan documents allow for crypto purchase, and is there entity use for asset protection since there is a lack of ERISA protections? Did you understand that question, Jill? Do you see it?
Yeah. So the plan documents, actually we work a lot with Don and Anderson to provide those. So I think that this is more of a question for the Anderson team on whether they can add that provision inside there, but I don't see why that would be a problem. But it's a great question to bring up to the attorneys.
Yeah, I agree.
And then as far as the lack of ERISA protection, Don might be able to speak to this better than I. We have this come up occasionally, and I usually have to dig into Don's book to get the answer, and it depends on the state as well. So I'll hand this one to you, Don.
So ERISA is a federal law that protects company-funded pension plans. Like so a 401k was contributed in part, at least by the company, was set up and administered by the company. So 401ks, pension plans, 403bs, those are all covered by federal ERISA laws. And again, the contributing or the bottom line was it was a company established plan. However, things like a military TSP plan, that's like an IRA. There's no, the military didn't set that up. You set that up. And therefore, it's not covered by ERISA. A lot of people remember the O.J. Simpson case where he kind of killed his wife, but he didn't kill his wife, but he sort of did. But, so he's guilty in one court, he's innocent in another. The Goldman family gets this multi-million-dollar judgment against him. And the two assets they can't touch is his Florida home, because it's protected by Florida homestead protection. And he's got millions of dollars in the home. And the other thing they can't touch is his NFL pension plan. And he's taking reportedly $23,000, $25,000, $26,000 a month out of it. And the best attorneys in the world can't touch it. That's good asset protection. But again, it was a pension plan. And it's ERISA protected. IRAs are not protected by ERISA. They're protected by your states. And some states vary a whole bunch. There's 4 states that will protect a traditional IRA, but not a Roth IRA. Some states will protect unlimited amount, your Florida and Texas, for instance. Other states give the judges a whole bunch of control. You got a little bit more in there than what you need. We're going to let the judgment creditor come in and take that, like California. And then you've got states like Wisconsin that'll only protect the first $68,000 in your IRA. And so every state is very, very different in what they will, but across the board, generally about $1 million is protected from outside creditors. Now, again, if something happens in the IRA, then there's things that we can protect. But we do specialize in helping people protect IRAs from outside creditors. The biggest thing that we see happening inside where it implodes is self-dealing. And that if you're in the middle of a lawsuit and a judgment is rendered against you, and the plaintiff's attorney finds out that you have a checkbook IRA, almost always he's going to subpoena all the records. And if you did a prohibited transaction, we talk about the IRS getting mad at you and maybe it imploding. I don't worry about that. I think they'll slap your hand and charge you the taxes and penalties. But if a plaintiff's attorney finds out you did self-dealing, you just broke the laws and you didn't play the game. Therefore, all of your state protection for that IRA can be up for grabs. It's dissolved because you didn't obey the rules. You were self-dealing, and the IRA structure gets set aside, and those assets become vulnerable to the plaintiff's attorney. That's my biggest fear. I am not a big fan of, Jill, you can talk to this more than I can, but I'm not a big fan of checkbook control because I see too many people not understanding the rules. They go to Home Depot, they're working on the house. They've got the checkbook IRA, but every time they pass the check stand, they buy a Diet Coke and that goes onto the account. And they didn't think that, this is IRA money. I see some problems with checkbook IRA. I love the fact that you guys look over every transaction, you put your stamp of approval and go on it and go, yep. And now you have not Big Brother, but you have an advocate looking out for you, making sure that you did it right. I like that a lot better than checkbook IRAs.
Yeah, I agree, Don. The other problem with checkbook, I think in the past it was more popular because of the speed of transactions. If you get your expenses into us, we'll pay that bill the same day or the next day. So people thought that checkbook gives you a little bit more speed. You can go to Home Depot and write the check at Home Depot on a Saturday. Well, we can pay those expenses very quickly. And so I would agree with you. We've seen so many people, there was a local example of someone in Akron, Ohio here who he had several properties in his IRA. One of his properties went vacant. He got a letter from the county saying from the city, you need to mow the grass. He paid his kid to mow the grass, $35. He blew up his entire IRA because he paid his kid. There was a paper trail. He paid the kid who the kid is a prohibited party to mow the grass. So taxes and penalty, it was almost 50% of his IRA.
Yeah, that's not worth it. Yeah.
Well, did we overkill that question? I think we did.
Yeah, well, it was part of the question too. You're like, hey, can I write a check from my IRA? And this is the reason that you really don't want to do it. And at iPlan Group, again, no transaction fees. You send us an authorization or you send us paperwork to pay a bill, it's same day. So the processing time is almost, well, I know it'd be quicker than me writing a check and putting it in the mail. We're way quicker, right? So it's a great way to just make sure that you're staying within the lines and got that third party in place. So it's definitely a common question. This is an interesting question. Can a Roth IRA co-invest with a special needs trust where the Roth owner is also the trustee of the trust?
I would say that the answer is maybe. I think we would need to dig in a little bit of this specific situation and find out what the investment is, what the ownership percentage is, who's controlling it. And I think we need to dig a little deeper. How about you, Don?
Well, the general rule is if I don't have enough money in my IRA, I could partner with my IRA.
Right.
And so I would think on the outset, a trustee could also partner with an IRA. But I would like to see, like you, I'd like to see the specifics before I answer the question carte blanche.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I see a question here. Can you please talk about UBIT? The answer is absolutely. We could talk about UBIT for at least an hour. It's can go pretty in depth. And I want to maybe refer you to one of Don's team, Scott Estel. He did a webinar for us. It's housed on our website, and he goes deep into UBIT for us. So maybe check there or contact us, and we'll talk about that offline. It can be pretty in-depth topic.
He covered that on a cruise that Jill, you weren't on one time, and we've got that on film.
Oh, good.
Where he took one house, it was a little turnkey property, and he says, let's look at it 4 different ways. Let's look at it in an IRA without debt. Let's look at it in an IRA with debt. Let's look at it in just in your name with debt and without debt. And let's look at the tax implications of all of those 4 different scenarios and what's going to be your best return on investment. And he went through and broke that down. Oh my gosh, that's one of my favorite webinars that Scott taught. Just looking purely at the tax implication, and UBIT was a huge part of that. Yep. So anyway.
Tamara's a current client, and she has a Roth IRA with iPlan. Thank you. It's titled in her own name. Can I retitle it to the account number for asset protection reasons? Yes, you can. Call our office, and we'll walk you through how to do that. Depending on what the asset is, you may have to redo the deed, but you can absolutely do it. And you could do future ones. Just because one is using your name, the next one can use just your account number.
Well, honestly, this is the most questions I think I've gotten in a long time. I know that we are well over the hour, and I do see some of the questions really are in depth, and they're great questions, but they're individual, and it would be hard to answer some of these, I think, corporately. I think we need to have more webinars, Jill. I'm sure you're happy to hear that because we love to have you here, and the combination with you and Don is especially great because the experience is so vast. I do have a self-directed IRA. I did one of those simple things where I invested in a private company. So it was kind of 1, 2, 3 for me. So, but lots of experience in doing things outside of an IRA, and also lots of experience of doing things just kind of grassroots, right? Want to start a business, want to do this, want to do that. And you kind of learn from experience. The best part of being part of this educational event and the Protect Wealth Academy events and all the experts that Jill and Don are referring to is you don't have to do that. You can learn from people that have gone before you. So if you don't listen to mom and dad and learn from them, you can learn from people that maybe you click with a little bit better in some cases, whatever that might be. In all seriousness, great expertise. Jill, there are so many questions here. I don't know if there's any blanket statements or any kind of closing statements you want to say, but
we will call us and we will talk to you all day long and answer all your questions if you just call us individually, for sure.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Let me pick one out from Joseph. He says he was talking about his 401k, not a self-directed IRA. How are we protecting those? And they're already protected. A solo 401k, remember, is ERISA protected because it was company sponsored initially. So it's really good at protecting. ERISA will protect you from outside creditors. The only fear that you have then is blowing it up from the inside. And again, sometimes we look at separating safe assets in one account and unsafe assets in another. We encourage you not to self deal and blow it up from there. We can manage the equity, keeping out an outside management company. There's a whole bunch of things that we can do. And if you have questions, you're always welcome to call us as well. We've got a hotline that we've run for 21 years. That number is 800-276-1430. Kendall, will you mind putting that in the chat screen? If they have questions, not about IRA administration, that would go to Jill and Roberta, but about asset protection. Let's put that in their chat screen, and that way everybody can see it. But 800, oh, there you go, 276-1430. Okay. Jill, Roberta, I can't thank you enough. It's so good to see your smiley faces, and I love your expertise. I've loved the lifetime friendship that we've developed over the years. Do you have any closing comments before we wrap this up? Because I think we have reached an end. Roberta, let's start with you.
Well, just thank you, and thank you to everyone that's joined us tonight. And we do encourage you to keep connecting. We are really focusing on some great education this year and connections with industry experts, along with Protect Wealth Academy. We always welcome your calls and would love to talk with you one-on-one. That's one of the great things about iPlan Group, is definitely that personal approach, and we certainly love to connect with you. So thanks, Don. Thanks, Kendall. And thanks, Jill, for being here, because we love it.
Jill, we'll give you the last word here.
Thanks for having us, Don. It's always a pleasure. iPlan's been open for 9 years, so I think that I first attended my Protect Wealth seminars about 12 or 13 years ago. And I've attended as a student, as a speaker, and I still attend. And I seem to learn something every time. So it's a lot of information that'll come at you. But I started with 2 LLCs, and now I have some big spiderweb structure of holding companies and C Corps and management companies. But it's a lot of really good information. I do learn something every time. So it's good for beginners. It's good for advanced investors. It's amazing information. I can't recommend it highly enough.
I had forgot you came to us first as a student, didn't you? That's right. Yeah. Oh, I missed those days. Mm-hmm. Well, my dears, thank you very much for being
you
part
mentioned
of this.
That you used to charge $3,000 first, and I think I was one of the ones that paid $3,000 back in the day. Worth every penny, I promise.
Well, if you haven't signed up for the 3-day Asset Protection Summit to learn more about asset protection, we are bringing the best experts. It's the best training that we can give you on asset protection. Go to protectwealth.com, sign up for that class. Again, it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week. We invite you to do that, and call us if you have questions. The same with Roberta. Thanks for being with us, and Jill and Roberta, especially thank you for your time tonight. Everyone, have a great night. Good night.